Hey guys, so I totally forgot as I was making that last video that I had an unlimited subscription to Screencastify, so I can start recording these videos without breaking them up, okay? So let's go ahead and get lesson 2 done. Just a reminder, we are working with number lines, and I said that we would be working with absolute value, okay? So example 2 has us looking at absolute value and using it to determine the arrow, which we now know as a vector, to determine the vector length for -2. And we're going to use a number line to support our answer. So let's go ahead and think about absolute value for a minute. And I want you to write down what you think of whenever you hear or you see the words absolute value. All right, so absolute value should make you think of these two vertical lines and the -2 in between. That means I'm going to look at -2 and its distance from 0. Okay, so as always, I should start at 0 on any number line. And if I want to know where -2 is, I have to think about how many spaces it is from 0. And I know that it's 2 spaces. And -2 is to the left. So I need to show that I'm moving 2 spaces to cover this absolute value part of the question, okay? So this is -2, and then it would make my absolute value would make my vector 2 units long, okay? So let's move on to using the absolute value to determine the arrow length for 3. We're doing this because for some of us, it may be difficult at first to stop doing this. Okay, and I did that totally wrong, but you see what I mean. We may be hesitant to jump from actually counting unit by unit instead of just going straight to the number by thinking about, okay, how far is this number from my starting point? All right, so let's think about the absolute value of 3. It's a positive 3, so I'm going to move to the right from 0, and it is 3 units because 3 is 3 units away from 0. And even if it was -3, I would just move 3 units in the opposite direction, okay? So instead of doing this, I want to see some nice clean vectors like this that show me how you got to +3. All right, now let's do one more with -10. I want to know what would be the absolute value of -10. How many spaces is -10 from 0? So I can draw a quick number line if I need to. You can go ahead and skip past this if you're understanding and you got it and you're ready to move on. That's the nice thing about video lessons. If I'm going too slow for you, you can skip ahead. Okay, now I know that -10, even though it's to the left of 0 instead of to the right as we're accustomed to seeing, it is still ten units away from 0. So here's my starting point. I want to see some nice straight arrows like that. Don't bother making them perfectly straight. I don't want you to waste time on it, but I want to see more of these vectors as opposed to your counting on method that we did in the last lesson, okay? Now, after we do example 3, I'm going to want you to come back and do exercise 2, okay? So let's go over to example 3. That's going to be on page 9. This is page 8, by the way. So let's go do example 3, and then I want you to come back and work out your answers for exercise 2. Now, in example 3, they have us doing kind of the same thing that we were doing with the cards in lesson 1. We are adding 5 plus -2 plus 3. Okay, so let's write the equation to express what we're doing. So we have 5, and then we have -2. Might want to put that in parentheses, and then 3. Okay, so these are the 3 numbers that we're adding. Now, how did I know that those were the numbers that we were adding? Well, for one, they're on the number line, but also I see that we have some vectors here, and that tells me that I'm moving around on the number line. So let's go ahead and skip part B because we already answered that. And I want you to think about, in what ways does this way, okay, in what way does the method we're using for counting on the number lines differ from what we did last time? Okay, so you can put your own answer here. I want to see what you think. And part D is asking us about the number line. So let's go back here and look at what is actually going on. So we start at 0, of course, and I see that my first vector goes to 5 and it stops. Okay, so here I added 5. Now, then I look above and I see that the second vector starts at 5 and then it goes back -2. So at that point, I added -2 and I ended up with 3. Okay, so we can also say that 5 plus -2 equals 3. That's one thing that we can gather from this number line. And after I added the -2 and got 3, I went and I added 3 more. See how this arrow starts at the end of this one? So this is my next step. And when I look down at the end of the last arrow, I see that I get 6. So can we make a connection between the sum of 6 and where the third arrow ends on the number line? I want you to go ahead and answer that question in the comments below this video. So what connection can we make between that number 6 that we saw on the number line and what all of this means? Okay, so I want you to put what you think in the comments below about this. Okay, now going with what we talked about a little bit in the last lesson, would the sum change if we change the order in which we added the numbers? For example, if we did -2 first, 3 second, and then 5. I think that's a good question. Let's go ahead, and for those of us that are still kind of stuck, I'm going to show this and we'll kind of answer it together. If you're ready, you can go ahead and move on. I'm going to want you to go back and do that exercise 2, remember? So if you are waiting for me to finish explaining this, then you can go ahead and do that exercise 2, okay? So would the sum change if we change the order? Okay, so let's go here, and we are going to start at 0 like always, and then I'm going to start with the -2 this time. Okay, so I'm going to go to the left 2, right? Because I want my vector to end on -2 because that's where I'm supposed to be. All right, and then we're going to add 3. So I'm going to draw another vector at the end of that one that goes covers 3 spaces. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so right now I end at 1. So what we can say is that -2 plus 3 equals 1, but we're not done yet. We still have to add the 5. Where is it? There it is. We still have to add the 5, okay? So I'm going to draw another vector starting where this one left off. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I see that my vector again ends on 6. So what can we say about this question? Would the sum change if we change the order in which we added the numbers? Well, as you see, in both situations, either doing it the way that it was done first or the way that they asked us to look at, I get 6. So does the sum change? No, the sum does not change. And as we discussed in the chat, the comments below this video last time, we would have discussed the commutative property. This is why the sum does not change. The commutative property of addition, the commutative property of addition proves that order does not matter when you're adding. If you're subtracting, that's something different, but order does not matter when adding. Okay, would the diagram change? Did our diagram change whenever we went from what they did to what we did? Yes, absolutely. So yes, but the result is the same. Okay, so now I want you to go to exercise 3, which is not the integer game. I'm so sorry. I wish that we could play the integer game in groups, but exercise 3 is going to have to be that posted game that's there in Google Classroom, and I have reposted it for you to do again today. So go ahead and do 2 rounds this time. Okay, now let's go on to your assignments. Your problem set is going to be in assessments. And this problem set is rather long. In fact, it continues on to 2 pages, and there's 7 total exercises. So I'm going to have you choose. Well, actually, I think I have to choose them for you. You're not going to see all of them online. Let's just say that. I'm going to choose 3. Choose the 3 that best fit where we need to go from here. So using what you know about this lesson, go ahead and, I should say chosen 3. Go ahead and work on those 3 problem set problems in the assessments portal, and also get your exit ticket done. So those are your assignments. And you should be good to go. If there are any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments below the video, and I will get around to answering them. All right. I'll see you for lesson 3.